Good morning, friends. So, let's talk about the difference in parenting or coaching. So, when your children are little, they need you to be their parent. They need you to tell them what to do, show them how to do it, and assist them in doing it. The mistake we make as parents is as they become the preteen to the teen years, we continue to treat them like a child. And they'll say, "You're treating me like I'm a little kid." They are trying to assert their independence from you, and that's not a bad thing. You have to let them learn. You have to let them live. You have to let them make mistakes and learn from them. Parents, at this point, you have to become a coach. They respect all of their coaches. They respect some of their teachers. I should say some kids respect their teachers. There are children who have no respect for anybody, right? Those are the kids who at home don't feel heard. They don't feel listened to. They don't feel what they have to say matters. They don't feel their opinions are important. They do not feel you believe in them. Let's talk about that. So, when you go from the parent who assists, teaches, shows them how, rescues them. They're little toddlers, they're little babies. They can't necessarily do it on their own. They need you to parent them. They need you to teach them, to discipline them, to give them direction. Once they hit that preteen stage, you got to pull back just a little bit. You got to let them make those decisions. So a conversation might look like, honey, I know you want to do XYZ, and I'm going to trust that you know how to make the right decisions. So let's talk about, if I let you do XYZ, what does that look like? So an example would be, let's say I have a 13-year-old that wants to go to a friend's party, and you've laid your boundaries. You're like, okay, for you to go to anybody's house, I need to know the parents, I need to know the kid, I need to have some understanding of who these people are. I need to know you're safe. I need to know their address, their phone numbers, all that good stuff. And a lot of times you'll hear your kids say, "You're so overprotective, you're so unreasonable." You reflect their words first and then a clarifying question. So you think me wanting to know that you're safe, me needing to know the address of where you're going to be, the phone numbers of the parents, so I can reach out to you if I have an emergency or a need to reach you. Let's say you don't have your cell phone on and there's a problem and I can't reach you and I can't find you and I need desperately to get to you. You're telling me I'm being overprotective and unreasonable by requesting these things. They need to understand why. So a lot of times parents will say, "I told you so," because I said so, because I'm the parent, you're the kid. Now, y'all, sometimes that's necessary. I get it. Sometimes it's like, look, I said to do it, just do it, right? I get that. But the problem with that is you're not teaching your children good decision making skills. So you ask the questions. So you want to go with your friends, but you don't want to tell me where you're going. So what happens if y'all get in a car wreck? You're on the side of the road. It's 3:30 a.m. You haven't gotten home, and I'm in a panic and I have no idea where to find you. You're laying on the side of the road. You might be bleeding out. You might be where nobody can see that you wrecked, and you are laying there, and I'm looking in the wrong area for you. Your kid suddenly understands why it's important for you to know where they are, right? What if you go missing and you don't come home and I've got to tell a cop, he was wearing this, she was with this person, this is the address of the home that they were at, and then the police can go put the description out. the address of where they were, go see that family and say, hey, this kid was here. What's the last time you saw them? They never made it home. Like, you have to tell your children those thought processes for them to think through consequences. And I will never forget my dad saying, if you tell me you're in the east part of town and I'm looking in the east part of town and you're actually in the south part of town laying on the side of the road bleeding out, I'm not going to find you because I'm looking in the east and you went to the south without telling me. Your life is on the line. And I actually had a friend who had driven his car into a tree and they could not find him. And it wasn't until the next day, I think, when they finally found him. And so you have to really give your children real life experiences for them to understand the why and the need. Because I said so makes you a dictator. Because I said so means there's no real reason, there's no real logic. You just want to control me. That's the way your kid's going to think. So you give them those thought processes. So making decisions. So here's the deal, you don't bail them out. All right, son, I gave you $40 for gas. I know you can fill up your tank for $32. And now you're asking me for money 3 days later. What happened to the leftover money? Right? So you don't have to give in to their every whim and their every need. You can say no. You can give them a consequence. My son despised it when he would say, hey, mom, can I go to such and such? And I'm like, is your room clean? Is your bathroom clean? He'd turn around without answering and go take care of it. He'd come back. Sorry, I have hiccups. He'd come back and say, it's done. Come look at it, inspect it. I'd go check it out, and then he could go do what he wanted to do. I had expectations. If you do ABC, you get to go. If you didn't do ABC, you can't go until you do ABC. And there were many times I'm like, well, you haven't done the things that you were supposed to do today, and now you want to go do something. You have to complete those things. Well, mom, by the time I get them done, it'll be too late. I said, well, that's your problem. You should have had it done in anticipation of wanting to go out and do something. My children learned to go ahead and do those things early in the day on a Saturday, because Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, they might want to go do something. And if they didn't complete it, they didn't get to go. There was no negotiating with that. So consistency in your parenting and your consequences. There's a difference in discipline with consequences and punishment. And you got to make sure it matches. So parenting a teenager looks more like a coach, right? You can't play ball until you warmed up. You can't go play until you clean up. You can't go anywhere until you do XYZ. So a lot of parents try to have control completely over their children. You have got to give them room to make mistakes and make errors. And you've got to look at their behaviors and ask them the question, right? So you see the behavior, and maybe it's 8-year-old behavior, and you ask them, you're 16 and suddenly you are reverting back to age 8 and you're arguing with me like you're a child. What's going on? Like, why is there an argument right now? Right? You're going to make them understand that this is a different situation than when they were 8 years old, right? You're not 8 years old. Why are you behaving at an 8-year-old's age? Why don't you bring yourself, take some deep breaths, bring yourself back to age 16 and talk to me like the young adult you are? When you expect your children to behave a certain way, you give them responsibility. They step up to the responsibility. Example, when I would take my son to New York, I would text him the address of where we had to be and the time we had to be there. It was up to him to figure out the directions, whether we were walking, Uber, Subway, or what time we had to leave. And I would only ask a few little questions. I'd say, okay, so You said we have to leave at this time and we're walking. Did you take into account that you want to stop and get coffee in the morning? Did you take the account of how slow I might walk compared to you? And did you take into the account we're lugging your modeling gear and in your decision making and stuff? And he would say, yes, Mom, I actually allowed us an extra hour. So we're going to get there early. Even if we take our time, we're going to get there early. And I'm like, great, because you can't be late. And so I taught my son how to navigate. So now that he's 18, if he wants to drive to Georgia, I don't have an issue with it because he knows how to do it. He knows how to navigate. He knows how to get to where he wants. He knows how to ask the questions, and he knows how to pay attention to his surroundings. He learned very early on not to have a space in his phone in New York, not to have a space in his phone in Atlanta, Georgia. So when he's going from point A to point B, his phone is in his pocket, unless he's using it for navigation. And he learned how to do navigation with walking. So he might have his phone for navigation, but he's got his AirPods in and he's listening to what the navigation tells him instead of facing phone because he needs his head on a swivel to pay attention to his surroundings. You have to give your children responsibilities for them to show you that they can be the adult. If you don't give them that, they don't do it. When my kid came up to me at 9 o'clock at night and said, oh, Mom, I have a project due tomorrow and I need XYZ for it. I'm sorry. 9 o'clock at night, there's no store open. I'm not driving 45 minutes to a Walmart because you had poor planning. So maybe you can talk to your teacher about an extension. Text me if you get an extension, and I'll go by there when I have time sometime tomorrow and pick up what you need. But you're going to have to ask for an extension, and you're going to have to send me a message to let me know that you got an extension and I can go get what you need. If you put your clothes back on, you were in your pajamas, you were ready for bed. If you put your clothes on and run out the door, your kid thinks he can do this to you all the time. My children learned real quick bad planning was not my problem. But Mom, I need this now. Yeah, you should have planned better, right? So my kids also learned to pack their own clothes when we went on beach trips, when we went modeling trips, acting trips, whatever it was. My kids knew they had to pack their clothes. And I do fold their clothes. So parent tip 101, you lay out the pants. You put a pair of underwear, a pair of socks, and the t-shirt, and you fold them up and you put them in the drawer. When your kids are younger, they learn to do that. They realize they can pull an outfit out and just pack it, pull an outfit out and pack it. Make them a packing list for the beach, make them a packing list for the mountains, make them a packing list for modeling or acting or sports, whatever it looks like. And their responsibility is to go into their bag and make sure everything's packed. Then you instill in them when you come home, okay, the first thing you have to do is unpack your bag. Put your dirty clothes in the laundry. If they're not big enough or old enough to do their own laundry, tell them where to put it in the hamper with your dirty clothes. I'm going to go ahead and wash them because they stink, and you'll take care of it. When my boys were big enough to put their arm down at the bottom of the washer, they were old enough to learn how to do their laundry, and they did their own laundry. I would say Cole might have been 8 years old because he was super tall, and Corey, I think, was 10 because he was a little shorter. When he was young, he was really short. And he's only 5'11" now, and Cole is like 6'3" now. So you really want to give them responsibilities. Them learning how to clean your house is taking care of the home they live in. They need to learn to be husbands and fathers and good humans and good roommates in college. And if you train them in their high school years, in their middle school years, how to be that person, they will become that person, right? So there's a consequence. The kid that doesn't want to go anywhere and they're like, well, I don't want to go anywhere, I'm not going to clean my room. You literally have to say to them, your room's starting to stink. That's not acceptable. We do not want bugs in this house. You've got to do this. I'm turning off the internet You get no gaming time until this is done. When your room is done, come let me know and I'll turn the internet back on for you. No cell phone, no computer, no nothing until they're done with what they're doing. This will take a lot of the argument out of it. Okay. Hope this helps. Feel free to comment, ask questions. If you want more videos on parenting versus coaching, let me know. Go be awesome.